Hello and welcome. And if you're new or an old friend, thank you very much for joining me here for this video on the second of the eclipses. And I think there is no doubt that this one is even more powerful than the first total lunar eclipse that we had on the 7th of September. If you haven't seen my videos for the whole of the month and the effects of the eclipse on each sign, and a bit of an overview there, and also the video for the 7th, please you look over those if you think you'll find them useful, because the themes carry on through to this second eclipse. The eclipses are like two ends of the same tube, if you like, and so everything there very much is a follow-on. But as I say, I think we're at an even more powerful point now. So this eclipse happens in the UK at about 8:42, sort of just after 20 to 9 p.m. in the evening, and then within minutes, I think by about just before 9 o'clock, that's the point of the new moon. So the eclipse is very, very close to the new moon, and it's happening at 29 degrees of Virgo. 29 degrees is a very powerful point. It's a very powerful end point and beginning point, and that's exactly where we find ourselves. But not only is that the case, but both Sun and Moon are opposite Saturn and Neptune, which are retrograde, and we have Saturn has retrograded back into Pisces. This eclipse is all about oppositions, bringing up oppositions into our consciousness. I don't know whether you recall an old board game called Jumanji. I think it was the 90s, or I think the 90s. And it was a film made about called Jumanji. And in the board game, all of the pieces were thrown in the air. And then it was a huge scramble. Which way will they assemble? And nobody knew, and I feel like this eclipse is something like that sequence where wild cards are tossed in the air. Anything seems possible. But I've said about this theme of oppositions being very strong at this time, and I think that is very clear. I mean, normally at full moons we see the opposition of Sun and Moon, but here both Moon and Sun, such key points astrologically, are both in opposition to Saturn, which itself is on anaretic degrees and retrograding before this big move forward and this move into the next phase. Our world, as we experience it, is full of oppositions, and these are being thrown in our face at the moment. Oppositions between nations, oppositions between war and peace, oppositions between the divine masculine, the divine feminine. These are incredibly prevalent, and these interfuse all of our experience at the moment. And they're coming out of dualities that exist for us, between day, between night, between good, between evil, between sun and moon, the masculine, the feminine, between the active and the reactive. All of these are things that we live with. Eclipse points, in some way, bring these into really sharp relief. Because what are eclipses? Well, they're the point where the path of the moon, which we would say represents night, the dark, the feminine, the path of the moon around the earth intersects the apparent path of the sun. And so there we have an exact meeting of opposites, an exact coming together of opposites. And it's as if this tears a little hole in our reality, in this duality that we experience, and sets loose this wild card energy. And I think it's throwing it into sharp relief for us at the moment. And it's not comfortable, but it's for good reason. So I was talking there about the point of the eclipse as being a point of meeting of opposites. And this eclipse is only hours before the autumn equinox. And what is the autumn equinox? Well, when we have the solstices, we have oppositions. We have complete oppositions between summer and winter. We have oppositions between the sun at its zenith and the sun at its lowest point, between the darkness and the light, in complete opposite. But at the equinox, it's the reverse. The 2 points of equinox, both in the spring, the vernal equinox, and in the autumn equinox, are points when, quite magically, just for a brief time, day and night are absolutely equal and in balance. And this has made it a very magical time for our ancestors and for us still. It's this point of balance, and it happens for us twice a year, and it's very significant. And it's very interesting that it follows hot on the heels of an eclipse that's throwing up for us everything that's out of balance, everything that's out of whack. For us, it's important to stay in the eye of the storm, at the hub of the wheel, where the motion is so much less. And that hub and that eye of the storm is centered in ourselves, trying to ground and center in our being, in who we are, and in our own experience of what is true. And our trust that what is unfolding is what must unfold. The more we go into fear, confusion, then the more turbulent the whole process is for us. There are obviously other messages coming in with this eclipse on the 21st. This opposition to Saturn, about karma ripening is this feeling there, that this feeling both collectively, individually, of ripening karma, of things coming full circle. There will be surprises, there will be shocks. We've certainly already been seeing those. But also Saturn calls for us to take some practical actions. And Virgo calls for us to take those in our daily way of being, in our daily life routines, habits, and so forth. So Virgo is calling for that. And Saturn, some action is needed by us. We need to be making steps. We have an opportunity to clear things out personally and collectively in order to enter the new beginning, which will be fully with us by the spring of 26. But remember, this is a new moon, and new moons are seed times. So we're being asked to look at, who are we choosing to become? Who are we becoming? How are we setting the ground for our next stage personally? And there's been so much inner work that we have been undertaking in order to heal those issues of that Virgo Pisces axis of victimhood, of hurts, of failures, of feeling imperfect, of not feeling ready, of not feeling good enough. Those have to be released. We cannot let our perception of our imperfection stop us in our attempts to move forward, to be who we are, to take the bold steps that we need to take. We cannot let the old programming hold us back. And this is a key moment. You know, this is a moment where things need to be released. And it may be that if we don't do it now personally, then the door closes on it for us for a while, and we're stuck where we are for a time. And that may not be such a good thing for us at all. So it's really good to release at this point, to let go, so that we can plant those new seeds for the future. We will be seeing loud and clear, very clear vision, the imperfections in the systems that we have, our old ideologies, ways of being. They will be very obvious to us at this point. What is failing, and failing badly? And what, therefore, can we seed new potentials, new ways of doing things? There is nothing written in stone about the way society organises itself. We can dream in, we can create better futures. I would like to take a look at the tarot card, which is ascribed to 29 degrees of Virgo by the Golden Dawn, the Magical Society of the Golden Dawn. And it's this card, the 10 of Pentacles. If I bring it in so we can see it a little better there. A very interesting card. It is about our desire for safety, for abundance, for security, and for being able to pass on those things to future generations. And I think that's a theme that's probably concerning lots of people at the moment. But I'd like to draw your attention to a little known aspect of this card, and that is this section here. And when we look at this, beyond the very solid reality of the archway there, the buildings, the family, there is a glimpse, a glimpse of an alternate reality. There is a glimpse of a reality greater than the material. And this is symbolized by the fact that we actually have in the Pentacles on this card the positioning of the Tree of Life from the Kabbalah. This is a Kabbalistic Tree of Life positioned by the Pentacles. So it's telling us that reality is so much more than the material. And I think this is important because we can think that daily life isn't somehow connected to the spiritual or isn't part of our quest to evolve. But of course it is, because it is in bringing down to earth, to the things we do all the time, to everything that we undertake in our lives, that real change begins. You know, otherwise we can be Sunday hypocrites, you know, we can just tick the box of spirituality and then do what the hell we like the rest of the time. But actually it's about embedding everything into what we call the everyday. I think that is a very important key here. I'd like to just bring in here the card for the equinoctial point, which is first degree of Libra, when the sun ingresses into the sign of Libra at the equinox on the 22nd. And the card for this is the Two of Swords. And you can see that this is a point of balance. It is a point of going inwards. The figure wears the blindfold. You won't be able to see the truth out there. The waters are choppy. You need to go inside and find the truth and find a balance. That is where it will be. I also have to say this is a card of truce, but it is also a card of stalemate. And I'm thinking at the moment about the dreadful conflict in our world. And much as I would wish this to be a moment where we find truce, where we find peace, I think it may also at the moment be a time where there is stalemate on that front. But I do think our inner process of finding an inner balance helps create a more balanced world for everyone. So hours after the eclipse, some hours after the eclipse, the next day, the sun will enter the sign of Libra, which is the sign of the scales, which is the sign of justice. And I've spoken in my previous video about the role of justice, the role of Jupiter, which certainly in the UK is on the IC of this chart, trying to give some form of protection to uphold those principles of justice and of balance. In the UK, I'm just double check here, but I think it's, yes, 19:19 p.m, 7:19 p.m. in the evening. The sun will move into the sign of Libra. And if you have a few moments spare just before then and just over that time, I think for any of us who can spare moments then, just to tune into that balance, to find inner peace there, to bring in and embody that balance, then I think that would be incredibly helpful for us personally and for our world. I do think that's a very good thing that we could do. And I wish you love and safety and hope and trust in who we are becoming, who are the next phase of our development. Let's move forward to that with love. Thank you, and I will see you again soon.